So 9S is trying to hack 2B, while 2B is trying to kill 9S. But then there's this other 9S, and then somehow we end up here. This is an anime original scene that has its roots in Nier side content. But why add it here at all? Why is Emil suddenly conscious instead of chilling in his tree? What percentage of anime onlys even understood what was going on? If you're confused, don't worry. I'm breaking down all the major differences between the Nier Automata anime and game, for Cour 2. I'll discuss new lore connections, tie-ins with other Nier content, and even some new insights. We'll also look into these hex codes, plus some creator interviews to help understand why the anime is the way it is.
A t-shirt maybe?
The first half of this episode adapts a very important side quest called Amnesia. It's pretty faithful up until the end. This android has some memory issues due to getting caught in an explosion. She finds out her missing friend was murdered and later learns that she was the one who did it. This had to happen because she's a Type E android. Her job is to execute traitors. At the end of the quest, the game leaves the android in an unstable state. She even offers to kill for 9S as a way of saying thanks. In the anime, she feels overwhelming guilt and voluntarily falls off a building to her death. Regardless of the outcome, 9S will always ask 2B if she knew about this designation, and 2B will never answer. The remainder of this episode did something interesting. It's kind of an adaptation of two short stories that were published in the Nier guidebooks. 9S meets up with 2B at the Barren Temple. This is a location from Replicant that isn't accessible in Automata. It's either buried in the sand, or further into the desert than you're allowed to go. The anime does a good job of adapting the suspicion and distance between these two, but we actually diverge from the source almost immediately. 2B calls off the mission early, and we're shown this. In Memory Cage, the investigation of the temple continues. In Memory Thorn, 2B and 9S do head to a different location, but it's a place that sounds like the Lost Shrine, again from Replicant. In the anime, we head to the shopping center instead. It's only when 9S dies and the camera pulls back to the bunker that things start to click. Everything we saw happened in the past. We've just been watching a recording with the commander. This collage makes it clear that 2B has killed 9S countless times. This means a new version of Memory Cage and/or Thorn is part of the anime's timeline. This is never really explored here, but the thing about Emil is that there are many copies of him. None of them know for sure whether they're a copy or the original. This scene tells us that there's at least one Emil that was active in the anime's timeline. It's probably meant to be identical to the one in the game. This Emil is probably a different one and could even be the original, but by the end of the series, nothing gets confirmed. We are then back in line with the game as the bunker prepares for the final battle.
Flattery is unnecessary.
Operator 210 still gives 9S that awkward mom-like praise. The red butterfly is a nice addition, hinting at future events. Cour 1 already revealed the link between the bunker and the Red Girls, so we get a bit more insight into their thoughts and motives. They're always watching. The anime continues to give the Resistance a bigger role than the game did, especially Lily, who's now battling the same virus that took her friends many years ago. I won't bring up every puppet play this time, but I have to mention this one. The setting for this is the Gambler's Coliseum, a DLC arena in the game where you can take on various combat challenges. The highlight is a boss fight against the former presidents of Square Enix and Platinum Games. They're constantly yelling "oh" while throwing objects at you, basically one of Yoko Taro's nightmares placed into the game.
Say, how's the weather on Earth today?
12 seconds in, I think we get a small cameo from Android 10H. She's been tasked with guarding the server on the moon, and makes appearances in the series a couple times. These two get cornered, upload to the bunker, then report to the commander. In the game, they're suspected of being infected and the commander tries to detain them. It's possible this could have happened in the anime, if 2B wasn't interrupted by an infected 6-0 mid-explanation. But the whole vibe here is already off anyways, since all of the operators are missing. 6-0 dies at some point in the bunker. You don't get to see it in the game, but you do pass by her quarters. If you finished the side quest Find a Present, where 2B sends 6-0 a picture of a desert rose, there's some additional dialogue that plays where you get a thank you.
Operator 6-0, thank you for the flowers.
2B does something similar to this in episode 7. 6-0 doesn't mention the flower at all in the anime, but she still gets to say goodbye. The commander is now infected. 2B and 9S escape the bunker as it gets destroyed. These are one-to-one with the video game, including the credits. The anime does this kind of thing a lot. It even includes endings just like the game. Director Masuyama suggested the idea of showing the endings for both the game and the anime versions. I think it was his wish to incorporate a respect for the original game, together with the emotions the player experienced with it, that led to this idea. An aerial battle breaks out as 2B and 9S head to Earth. In the game, this would lead to 2B getting shot down and ending up in the flooded city. In the anime, 9S manages to save 2B before this happens. But it ultimately doesn't matter, since the infected androids blow themselves up and separate the two. Once she recovers, 2B realizes that the logic virus has already infected her. As it starts to take over in the anime, we see that she's overcome with emotions for 9s and states this: killing probably makes the most sense here, similar to that time with Adam and 9S. But it seems like Taro might have wanted something different originally. At one point, I added a scene in the plot where 9S and 2B, but producer Matsumoto delivered a divine decree. 9S does not, and so that scene was cut. He was concerned that fans wouldn't like it. I believe that both games and anime ultimately belong to the audience. Matsumoto-san is someone who has a strong understanding of what the fans want, so I respected his decision and let it go. Taro eventually says this in that same interview, which makes this more confusing. We know what Zero does in Drakengard 3, the injured player character trope. Truly a staple in the modern RPG. This is a tense moment, as 2B has to make it all the way from the flooded city to the bridge, before the virus fully takes over. The screen gets fuzzier, moving gets gradually more difficult, you're losing controls altogether, your audio and visual systems get messed up. How do you convey the way a player feels here in anime? Well, the distance is shortened a bit with 2B landing in the city ruins. The damage is made more apparent thanks to the missing arm. She's constantly thinking of 9S as her demise nears. Updates on his whereabouts are weaved in this time to add urgency. But alas, he's in the desert fighting these things. When we take control of 9S in game, he's already in the city. Maybe he just arrived from the desert here too. The mediums sync up on the bridge and remain consistent all the way through 2B's death. 9S always loses it and the tower always emerges. Small reincarnation reference in the puppet play.
You're pretty useless.
This entire episode is alluded to in game with one small scene. It's a reference to Pearl Harbor Descent Summary, a game archive that was partially adapted in Cour 1 Episode 6. This episode is a continuation of that. One of the anime's biggest strengths is all of this A2 support. Resistance-related content was never shown in visual form, and even in the game, it was only accessible through journal entries, so I thought including it would help deepen A2's character a bit. Interestingly enough, Descent Summary is being extended into a manga series under the name Pearl Harbor Descent Record. I guess I'm switching to anime versus manga for now. So this whole story is a recount of A2's first mission, back when she had the moniker of Number 2. Her Yorha squad runs into a resistance squad, led by Rose, with Lily among its members. Number 2 asks for their help on the mission, to which Rose agrees. These twin androids, Yotsuba and Futaba, are the operators during this mission. They are shown in the anime, but they're only given attention in the manga. There's an additional scene where Futaba asks the commander a question that she probably shouldn't have. The commander tells her to go get a checkup, but in her thoughts, she wonders who really needs it more, hinting at the strain this role puts on her. The Red Girls are closely monitoring the mission. They wonder why the Yorha and the Resistance didn't just kill each other upon meeting. The manga suggests that the girls intentionally gave Lily the logic virus in order to start a feud between the androids. It works by twisting Lily's guilt, her feelings of being useless while her friends died, to override her will. Things were tense between the two groups, but Lily getting infected was actually the thing that finally pulled them together. We jump ahead to the climax of the mission. The English version of Volume 4 doesn't release until August, so the comparisons end here. Only Number 2 and Lily survive this ordeal. But before Rose dies, she tells Number 2 the names she thought of for the Yorha units. The origin of these names extends back to the Yorha version 1.2 musical from 2018. It seems like her actress, Yui Hinagata, might have thought of them herself, judging by this tweet. Also, the manga explains that Lily used to be a lover model. She got painfully abused by the squad's old commanding officer.
Shut the hell up.
A2's connection to Pascal's village is given way more attention this time. Instead of just waking up in the city, Pascal rescues her, and the machine children helped. We still run the fuel filter replacement subplot from the game, but with a lot more bonding moments added in, for obvious reasons. Pascal's justification for teaching the children fear is given more attention as well. The segment ends with A2 and Lily finally reuniting. The game gives you control of 9S only after the Machine Village arc completes, but the anime swaps between these two way more often. Because of that, you get this cool contrast where A2 starts growing closer to others, while 9S is rejecting everything and everyone. The anime includes this scene where 9S runs into an android digging graves. He mourns his dead comrades using flowers the same way humans did, and encourages 9S to do something similar. This is obviously met with rejection.
Boom! Hack 'em up good.
Just like the game, 9S has to visit 3 recovery units and collect keys to unlock access to the tower. The anime has the combat-fitted 210 show up right after he learns this. She is now infected and hostile. This fight occurs in the final resource unit in-game, but it ends with her stumbling towards 9S, only to be interrupted and killed by A2, pretty brutally right in front of her boy. In the anime, 9S and A2 never cross paths after 2B's death, until the climax. He is spared from having to watch A2 kill both 210 and 2B this time. The alternative is still devastating though. 210 orders a horde of androids to attack. She eventually remembers that she wanted to protect 9S, as if he were family, and impales herself to stop the assault. Given the chance to mourn 210 properly this time, 9S almost goes through with it before deciding it's all meaningless and moving on. He then leaves for the first recovery unit. If you played the game, you probably noticed that somewhere along the way, the machines started expressing how much pain they're in as 9S slaughters them. The anime makes this and 9S's disregard for them much more obvious. Still pretty brutal either way. This machine is a lot meaner to 9S this time. In the game, he was begging to be killed. You couldn't actually do it though. The Machine Village still gets attacked, but A2 is actually present when it begins this time. Pod detects the enemy's approach early, which gives them time to prepare. The episode ends with an extended puppet play that's full of replicant references.
But what is an obligation?
Even with a well-armed squadron and Gigapascal, the Machine Village ultimately meets the same fate as in the game, but only due to a second wave surprise attack this time. They had us in the first half, not gonna lie. Pascal takes the kids to the resistance camp in the anime, instead of the factory like in the game. They're not gonna get me again. I know they're not safe. Emil's shell survives the attack. A2 actually fights the Engel this time, while showing off Berserker mode. In the game, she only fights other Goliath-class enemies on land. I guess Pascal was able to get back faster with his Goliath that time, since he didn't have to go as far as the resistance camp. While that's happening, 9S goes to the second resource unit. It's in the desert in the anime instead of the flooded city. There's a machine bound to the wall here this time. If you look closely at the chains and stakes, they actually match the ones that were used to bind this weapon from Replicant. When 9S hacks into the server, you see some logs that correspond to actual archives in the game. The highlight is the black box archive, which confirms that black boxes are created using machine cores. In both mediums, 9S eventually gets reverse hacked and fights some data that occasionally takes the form of 2B. The puppet plays are cancelled due to 9S's mental state. The pods will now take this time to update each other.
Ass, was it?
The Goliath battle ends the same way. Time to check on the kids. In the game, the children take their own lives to escape overwhelming fear. Fear that was taught to them by their uncle. A2 then gets a choice. Kill Pascal, erase his memories, or leave him to live with the guilt. Moving the kids to the resistance camp this time didn't help. One of them had the virus, which eventually led to an infectious outbreak. Excluding Devila and Popola, the camp puts together a squad to stop the spread. It goes terribly. Jackass is dead. Lily and Pascal soon follow as their story arcs simultaneously conclude. Turns out the music box kid was infected and ate all the other children, still driven by fear. Pascal makes his own choice this time and dies with the kid. A2 is now alone. No machine village and no resistance camp. But unlike 9S, she does mourn Lily's death using a flower. Great use of the resistance here overall. In the game, Anemone is the one stationed at the resistance camp, but in the anime, that role was given to Lily. We needed a character who could spice up the dialogue and interactions within the camp, so we decided to feature Jackass. 9S heads to the final resource unit, which is surrounded by a field of flowers. In the game, this is located in the amusement park. The clown's still there though. We already did 9S versus 210, so the anime placed 2B's flight unit here instead. 9S gets to hear a proper goodbye from her. You can find this flight suit in-game within the flooded city. Interacting with it would make the same message you hear in the anime play.
We must see the plan to completion.
We start with some replicant storytelling. There's some Drakengard adjacent stuff in there as well. In case you weren't aware, the Nier world stems from the ending of Drakengard 1. The lore from that series is connected to this one. 9S struggles to unlock the tower and attempts to hack it in both mediums. But in the game, he's interrupted by another machine attack. In the anime, he succeeds. This results in an encounter with data from an old 9S. That version reveals the truth to the current version. 2B has been forced to kill 9S countless times. In the game, it's implied that he figures this out before confronting A2 in the tower, but I don't think we know exactly when he put that together. The versions realign when Devola and Popola arrive. Once 9S is thrown into the tower, Pod reveals some data records for the twins. The show adapts these records into fully animated scenes. They were a short text-based adventure in-game. Once the area is cleared of machines, we learn Popola now has the logic virus. This is not explicitly mentioned in the game. It's implied she just died in battle and that's all.
Let's play some more.
Infected or not, Popola always dies at this point. Devola's infected too, and A2 mercy kills her. In the game, she gets left behind outside the tower, probably clean. But even then, she dies anyways due to her wounds, as we see in Ending D. A2 comes across the library, a replica of a building from Replicant. She discovers archives revealing the truth behind Project Yorha and the tower. While that's happening, 9S fights a bunch of 2Bs, which matches up with the original nicely, minus the final kill. He transplants infected parts from a 2B model onto himself. Then the Red Girls finally confront him, telling him the whole truth. The portrayal of the network coming to a disagreement is heavily condensed in the anime. This forces the Red Girl confrontation with A2 to be moved to the library. We still have the segmented boss fights with Koshi and Roshi, but they've also been cut down. Yoko-san, director Masuyama, and I agreed that we didn't want to have a single episode in which a battle is the main feature, and the story doesn't progress at all. We all agreed that we wanted to incorporate action scenes of the game into the story of the anime in a meaningful way. I suspect there's some confusion over what the machine network did exactly, so let's go over that. The Red Girls, also known as N2 in the game and Nier community, are the consciousness of the machine network. They are responsible for basically every action that perpetuated this machine war. They need to keep this war going in order to give both themselves and the androids purpose, and to use it to further their evolution. Half of the network wants to keep the war going even longer to keep evolving. The other half wants to end the conflict and leave Earth altogether. This causes them to fight until only one side is left standing. When A2 and 9S clash at the top of the tower, the dialogue between game and anime is the same, including the bit about Android 2E.
Being alive is pretty much a constant stream of embarrassment.
In this final confrontation, the game lets you choose who you want to play as. This choice results in two different endings. The anime gives us something that takes elements of both routes and merges them. After A2 cuts off 9S's arm, it's actually 9S who hacks into A2 instead of it being the other way around. This results in 9S learning about her past and using all the bad memories to try and break her. A2 chooses to remember the good memories and is able to defend against the hack. Memory realms between the two androids are merged, which lets A2 locate 9S's core data. Similar to Ending C in the game, A2 removes the virus from 9S and destroys the tower, at the cost of her own life. She states this in both mediums.
I'm coming, everyone. I'm coming.
Which carries a lot more weight in the anime thanks to the adaptation of Pearl Harbor and inclusion of Lily. In Ending D from the game, the two androids end up killing each other. As Pod 153 tries to evacuate 9S's remaining memories, a Red Girl approaches him. The network is now peaceful. It explains that the tower's new purpose is to launch an ark into space, carrying all of its memories. Adam and Eve are present, and 9S is asked if he'd like to join, to which you can accept or refuse. The tower is destroyed, and we see that Devola, Popola, Pascal, and the remaining resistance members are left behind, in various states of being alive. This same choice is given to A2 in the anime, but we can see that Pascal and the Machine Village are with them this time. We are then taken to Ending E while the credits roll. As Project Yorha ends, the pods must now destroy all the data, but Pod 042 and 153 reject this ending. In the game, this results in one final boss fight against the credits themselves. You are destroying the creators of this game in a shoot 'em up so that the pods can break free of their program directives. The anime adaptation of this is much less abstract, and is presented as a different Ending E. The pods end up fighting and destroying the others, who are still following their original directives. They all end up dead, but the androids are successfully rebuilt. The pods have some extra dialogue in the game where they talk about how the androids might just repeat everything again, but they choose to believe a new future is possible. That's where it ends. The anime goes a step further. A2 isn't where she's supposed to be, and we get to see 2B and 9S wake up. Accord makes an appearance right at the end, and it's implied that she repaired A2, with an extremely hard to cultivate lunar tear beside her. That brings us to the hex codes.
Everyone split up and begin recording.
Hex codes are these strings of data. They get flashed whenever an episode hits its eye catcher. To read them, decode from hexadecimal to a character encoding format. It's basically confirmed that Accord wrote these codes. Through these games, we know she's an artificial human who observes the Nier world. Since she's an android, there are a lot of Accords. They're part of an organization called the Association. Up until 2B's death, things went mostly according to her notes. I completely forgot to mention this in my previous video, but the Nier world has its own specific concept of a singularity, and Accord talks about them a lot through these reports. Thanks to the viewers for pointing that out. They're essentially just beings who can trigger divergences or branches in the timeline. 2B is one of these singularities, and as planned, that role is transferred to A2. I said things went mostly according to plan, because this report indicates an issue. Due to an attack from Group B, parts of the records are missing. What is Group B? We still don't know exactly, but there's some details from a certain mobile game that can help. Not that one. That would make too much sense. This one. Sino Alice is its own thing, but its director happens to also be the Nier series director and writer. Naturally, it had multiple collabs with Nier and Drakengard. I haven't played Sino Alice, and the game's servers have shut down, so I'm just going off of what the Nier community has archived. Group B is the enemy of the association. They want to attack and destroy different branches. While A2 was playing with the machine children, Accord was busy dealing with a rebellion. It looks like Group B is succeeding, and they might be attacking the anime's branch. The outcome of all this is the loss of contact with two investigators. Coming back to the anime, once 9S enters the tower, the reports have marked something unexpected about the pods, most likely in reference to what 042 and 153 do in ending E. But the reports from the final episode makes this feel more complicated. Urgent report regarding both 2B and 9S. It has been revealed that the survival of the two individuals is highly likely to be connected to the Great Calamity. All association members are hereby instructed to observe, with the highest level of alert. The Great Calamity is the Japanese name for the cataclysm. This was the disaster that essentially kickstarted the events in the Drakengard series. It's what gave birth to Cathedral City, which is the origin point of magic, the Watchers, and dragons. But as mentioned in Accord's book from Sino Alice, a cataclysm also gave rise to a large number of Group B. This either means another cataclysm occurred, or the survival of 2B and 9S connect to some previous one. The Blu-ray releases of Automata bring us more hex codes. I'm just going to highlight a few of them. The pod system is divided into 5 groups. One of them is Group B. The puzzle has been solved. Probably not. Accord did not expect Eve to die before Adam, and this is an example of a divergence in the anime's timeline. The final report describes how the pods violated their orders. Accord suggests that there's a new singularity, since 2B, 9S, and A2 weren't functioning when this occurred. When this anime started production, the initial plan was to keep things very similar to the game, largely due to individuals like producer Matsumoto, who wanted to keep it faithful. Taro wasn't very involved with this project early on, but he kept making suggestions that would push it away from the source material. I personally felt that simply repeating the same story wasn't meaningful. I also figured fans would be expecting something a little different from the anime. He even suggested that they do a what could have been version of the game at one point. As you saw with the final product, they ended up striking some kind of balance. Taro kept bugging the anime staff, so he was eventually offered a role on series composition. While he's in the corner trying to add some spice and mix things up, director Masuyama is fighting to capture what it was that made the game resonate with its fans. Those little Easter eggs and fan service segments, like Kaine showing up, a glimpse of the Masked City, Jackass in a swimsuit, these were actually Masuyama's ideas. Taro didn't want Kaine in there at all. On top of that, the staff had access to Saito, the game's motion data, and music. This was an interesting mix of people and elements. It really set the series apart from other video game adaptations. I think we've broken some new ground here, and I'm interested to see something like this tackled again. Maybe with Replicant, or some other Square Enix property. though I am aware of what happened with The World Ends With You. If you enjoyed this, I've got analysis videos on Cour 1. Alternatively, you can learn about Nier's game design philosophy through this other video. While anime content is a big focus on my channel, I'll continue to make Nier and other JRPG videos in between those. Stay tuned for more.